All right, in this episode, we talk about why does my foot rotate to my glove side and ipsilateral to contralateral tilt. All right, Brent Porcio here at the @TopVelocity #PitchTip Show, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Ask your question, we answer on the show. I'm going solo today, but we got a lot of good questions. Yeah, it's been crazy. I've been spending a lot of my time getting guys set up for the summers. So the camps are filling up, people are looking for places to stay. I'll just give you the options on places to stay. You know, Steven has a place to stay if he's not full, like he has a room for rent. I have an Airbnb that I've got in our downtown Covington area, but it's a nicer place. You do have the camp, or on the camp page, the hotel is listed there with 15% discount. You have that option too, and I'll help you any way I can with those trying to come down here for the 2X, 3X camp. So book those. They're filling up for the summer. You'll see the long list at topvelocity.net. It's getting pretty exciting, and that's where we're heading right now into the summer. Hope you guys are getting excited too. I recommend obviously training. I know I'm biased to that, but I recommend training and developing yourselves in an off season. And summer's a great off season, and playing, out of 75% of the year, or 60% of the year, not the whole time. So summer's a good time for an off season. Also fall too. Fall's another good off season. So, try, if you're stuck there and you've been playing all year long, guys, what you're gonna do is you're setting yourself up for injury. If I look back to my injury at 18 years old, it was the only year I decided to play all year long, and then I fell right into the injury and tore my rotator cuff. So I highly recommend do not do that, guys. And take that time to develop yourself. That's what we do with 3X camps. Okay, let's get started today. What's our question? Jared610 asks, my front foot rotates to the glove side when I land. What's the cause, and is this a bad thing? Okay, if your front foot is rotating after front foot strike to your glove side, that means a lot of rotation has occurred. So what's the approach here with 3X is that we want to start rotation at least before front foot strike. At most, we want to be pushing into good hip rotation, because there's a study that shows high velocity pitchers at front foot strike get their hips open earlier than low velocity pitchers at front foot strike, not before, but at, meaning like when they land, there's more hip rotation open than there is closed. So that means you had to have started it before you land. I think that's an old school approach that doesn't exist. Of course, there's guys that land and their back foot's still in the rubber, but there's a drive occurring and their hips are opening because of that drive. And that's typically how the back leg works. It works to initiate momentum down the mound and push force to rotate the hips along with the opening of the front foot. So don't think that you land and then you throw, because then that's what happens. You land, and then if you rotate and throw, your front foot swivels, okay? There's going to be a little bit of rotation. You'll see some guys land and you see the knee kind of push out to the glove side a little bit. But that's typically guys who have really thick hips. If you see guys very mobile, they'll land and lock down immediately. There's no movement of the knee because they don't have a lot of rotation after front foot strike. So when you see your front foot swiveling or rotating to the glove side, there's rotation, and there's probably too much rotation occurring, obviously, if the whole foot's moving. There's too much rotation occurring after front foot strike. At the same time too, it could be another indication that your trunk is really rotating hard, which is what we don't want. We do want trunk rotation, but we want to really finish with more trunk tilts going forward, not just purely trunk rotation. So that could be another indication too. You got too much trunk rotation in your delivery, so you've become too rotational, which there is studies that link that to more torques in the arm. There's studies that link that really a lot of them that are going to just go more torques in the arm. It's going to put you more in more contralateral positions, too far contralateral, more torques on the arm. And the other reason, just to understand why it puts so much torques in the arm, when you just rotate your trunk, I've talked about this in the other episode, you're going to be less time behind that ball, and that means you're going to have to go farther or faster to generate those forces in that shorter distance. So we got to get the rotation, as much of it out after front foot strike. Going into front foot strike, there's a lot of rotation. Hip to shoulder separation is rotation. But as we finish the throw, it's got to be linear movements, trunk tilts going forward with good front leg extensions supporting those trunk tilts going forward. So it's probably more than likely because you're just not rotating your hips early enough going into front, or early enough, I would say enough going into front foot strike. Maybe you're timing it correctly, but you don't have enough force behind it, or maybe you're just not timing it and you're just too late. That could be the issue. Good question. Next question. Coach Crampon asks, got any tips and drills to fix excessive ipsilateral tilt on @MikeyWhite5? Hard to see, but it's there. I've had a hard time looking at that video. If I can get it up, we'll put it here. I don't even, actually I won't put it here because I haven't looked at it. So it won't load on my phone for some reason. But we'll talk about ipsilateral to contralateral because it kind of goes back to the previous question. It's rotational movements. So if someone's very ipsilateral, of course too, that's just where you're putting your weight, where you're putting your trunk, where you're putting your hips. Be careful in ipsilateral positions. I know if you look at Chapman, he gets an initial lift in an ipsilateral position. But what's happening is your hips are flying out underneath you. Think of that as hitting. Like if I'm hitting and my butt's kicked out, I'm gonna be all upper body, right? I need my hips under me to power my hips through, to power my trunk. Same thing on the mount. So yeah, you can start ipsilateral, but if you're halfway through your stride and you're still ipsilateral, there's a good chance that you're gonna be a lot of upper body trying to throw that ball, and you're gonna get into a low arm slot as well, which you might not want a low arm slot. You can fall more to a low abducted slot, which is gonna be harder on your elbow. So I really believe in a lot of contralateral action. So like I wanna hold these positions. You know, you can just be vertical up front, but as you go into front foot, you really start to go into your contralateral positions. Now, if you're focusing contralateral and you've done really good to get contralateral to front foot strike, but then you go excessively to contralateral after front foot strike, it's rotational, it's a rotational effect. Meaning there wasn't enough linear energy to catapult that forward and things just kept rotating off to the contralateral side. Now, I might have jumped ahead. Ipsilateral is going to be the throwing arm side. Contralateral is going to be the glove arm side. And so that's what I'm referencing. So if you see too much ipsilateral, too much contralateral, let's say the ipsilateral is just being lazy and letting the hips be lazy and unstable. But contralateral means you're just trying to rotate too much, or you have too much rotational energy at front foot strike, and we need to work on more linear energy at front foot strike. So I hope that helps clear that up. I think that'll knock it out for this episode. If you have any questions, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, @TopVelocity, #PitchTips, ask your question, we answer it on the show. Check out the 2X, 3X camps. We'll see you guys down here for the summer.